when you're strange. No one remembers your name.
When you're strange. Down, brown,
Bow,
brown.
bow. The fictional character, Emily the Strange, is a quiet but sharp-witted dark stranger, slinging philosophy and cultural observations wherever she goes.
She started out as a series of hand screen-printed T-shirts and stickers made by Rob Rieger in the early 90s.
And now Emily is a counterculture icon all over the world, a success among alternative young girls and women. As her presence grew, Emily's own story began to emerge in a series of gift books, then comic books, then graphic novels, and now a novel series for young adults.
She is unstoppable. She continues to be a voice for individualism and self-awareness, and her appeal, as you said, Elise, is strong among alternative-minded young women and girls. And I was lucky enough to catch up with co-writers Rob Rieger and Jessica Gruner. And I first asked Rob how he got involved in graphic art in the first place.
Graphic art in general, for me, really started with album covers. Rock album covers, growing up, looking at the logos of Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, and specifically like 80s punk rock flyers, rock poster flyers and stuff like that. Very graphic stuff, like making flyers was basically a photocopy art, and so everything was very high contrast. And if you ever got into screen printing, you would know that two colors can go a long way. And my first two colors I ever had when I was screen printing just happened to be red and black. Hence those colors.
I noticed in the later work, you also had a combination of pencil drawings and then that sort of pseudo scrapbook style. Did that evolve with Emily?
Yeah, well, there's certain styles like that have been consistent from the very beginning, but our graphic style and takes on how to present sketches or artwork and make it feel hand-done, even though it might even be done in the computer, is important because, a lot of what Emily is about is expressing your creativity, being yourself and doing it yourself. And the more we can kind of have that look and feel, I think it just touches on that quality possibly, hands-on.
The evolution from cartoon to comic to novel. For you, how did you think Emily had to grow, or how did you grow with her to go from just sort of this very punchy, like it's, like a quick attack, to then this sort of more longer-term comic book?
It was a very gradual process, and it happened very naturally, and I don't know if it could have happened any other way. It was starting out as these phrases that you could put on a T-shirt, and so it's kind of a one-liner to grab someone's attention, tell the story with a single image, and that was that. And the next step was with the comic book, turning like a short little idea into maybe a 2 or 3 page story. So the words they weren't that much more, but we did allow Emily to speak herself now rather than just having descriptions about Emily. And those little short stories, so the comics were just collections of short stories that were like you'd have a funny idea and it was easy to like play that idea out over 3, 4, 5 pages. The next step was then to serialize a short story over 4 issues, which Jessica wrote, and the evolution of the stories and writing the scripts for the comics. I have a very vivid memory of reading one of Jessica's and at first being frustrated by going like, damn, Jessica, you can't draw that. You can't draw what someone's thinking and then they're flying in the air and there's a cat attacking them and the door's opening and time has gone by. And then, but at the same time, I'm reading it and I'm thinking the way she wrote it, it's like, yeah, you don't even need to draw it. All you got to do is read it. And so we're onto something here. Let's do something bigger. And I was right around the time, it was serendipitous that I had a couple publishers like approaching me to do novelizations out of Emily. And I said, hold your horses. We'll get you a sample manuscript. And they're all, really, Rob? Okay, you think you're going to write novels? And I'm like, yeah, you betcha.
Had you had the intention to be a writer? Or was it your contact with Emily that prompted you to?
No, I've definitely been writing since I was very small, since like kindergarten, actually. And it was a mutual friend of ours who had read some stories that I wrote about a totally different character, but that had some sort of similar energy, that he saw a similarity to Emily and said, what would you think about doing some writing for Rob? I think there could be a good synergy there because there's this energy that's kind of similar. Definitely, I'd have a lot of energy for writing aside from Emily, but it was really fun to channel all that into a character that was so cool and so much like, something that I was already interested in.
Is she something that you are?
Is Emily something that I am? I definitely share a lot of qualities with Emily, but I think that in a lot of ways she's a more idealized version of me. I would like to be.
And me.
Yeah. Of course, not just me.
No.
But,
I mean,
yeah.
There's some buzz and there's
Absolutely.
She's a very collaborative character.
Yeah.
I don't mean to jump all over you.
No. For example, I'm not as independent or solitary as Emily is, but I sort of idealize that. I don't expect that I'm going to be completely independent and solitary all my life, but I admire that Emily is really so free of other people's opinions and needs of her that she really does do it herself and she does her own thing. And she is complete unto herself in a way that most of us can't really ever be in a practical way.
You were talking about before about Jessica writing Emily flying back through time and stuff. Like, tell me, where does that come from? What do you do? Are you just wake up in the morning, you're having coffee, and you go, "This is it"?
I guess especially for the comics and maybe to a slightly lesser extent the novels, there's a lot of freedom in what we can do with Emily that we've created her to be this character that has these powers or abilities that, bend the rules of reality. And that's just really fun. If you have a character that you've sort of agreed can do that, then you've got to do it and make it as weird as possible or as fun as possible for yourself. And they've got to be strange. She's Emily the Strange, so you really have to explore all the meanings and the depth of that word.
Part of it, for me, when I write, comes from what is this going to look like when it's art, when it's drawn, like when Buzz takes some of Jessica's words and turns it into that page. That's a magical process right there. And a lot of, I think, the wacky writing comes from, like, let's see what Buzz is going to do with this.
Like, she has been described as a link to the stranger in all of us, and she's encapsulating a sense of alienation and discovery. She's so incredibly popular, and there's now that you've got her forum. You'll be getting fan mail from mostly young women, do you think, or who is your fan base?
Well, the fan mail we get tends to be younger, anywhere from like age 5 or 6 to, someone in high school maybe. Sometimes they'll get a parent writing in for their kid or something saying, I used to love this stuff, now my kid loves this stuff, or something like that. But generally, it's more, most of the fan letters are, thank you so much for Emily the Strange, and then there's a funny picture of a cat or something like this. But there is a place on our website we've created for fans to gather and write to each other. It's called the Society of Strange. It's on emilystrange.com, and there's any number of subjects from, what's your favorite band, who lives in Australia, that kind of stuff, to talking about more personal stuff, like what do you do when you break up with your boyfriend or girlfriend? I'm having family problems. And what really hit me and reading some of that stuff one time was how comfortable they all were in talking about this stuff on the Emily website, on a very public spot. And me thinking back to when I was that age, it would have been great to have a place like that to talk about things. And I certainly wouldn't have talked to my teachers about it, or my church counselor, or my parents. So it kind of hit me like someday I would love to be able to have enough of an organization that, we could channel something to help people out, some sort of proactive way of helping people out, like giving them the opportunity to be creative and push that, because that's really been the nurturing aspect of my life.
And that was Cheryl there, battling through tons of Emily fans to speak with Rob Rager and Jessica Gruner, the brains behind Emily the Strange on Pulse.